Oh, y'all didn't tell me that y'all had entry music.
That leads
That's
to
not
part of
a
the.
DM. That doesn't come out of DM.
Oh,
That
man.
stays down there.
I'll put that on the list for next time.
Yeah.
A little rough around here.
It's fun.
Man, talk to us, tell us a little bit about how you guys got started. Like, I love y'all's story and y'all's strategy, so let's just dive straight into it.
First thing I want to say is thank you for having me. If you don't know Wyatt and John, you're really missing out. He's one of the best people that I've met recently. Their strategies, their method, and they are really here to help people. And I can't tell you that watching him sometimes is like watching myself in the mirror. Sometimes it's like they are really doing well and they're helping people. Like those stories you hear, those stories go on and on. He's not gonna say it. I'm gonna tell y'all that he's not gonna say it. He's a modest guy, but believe me, there are more stories like that going on. So thank you for having me, event, and thank you for helping people like you.
Thank you so much, man. That means a lot.
Me and my other half, the better half of the Denmarks, is Ashley Denmark. She kind of started coughing yesterday, so she didn't want to come and pollute you guys. So she decided to stay home. But that's my better half. We started real estate back in 2009, in April, when the market was down, just graduated college, and one of my coaches, because I coach football, kind of drove me around Birmingham and was showing me some of his properties, and I wasn't paying no attention. I didn't know why he was showing me these houses. But it was just one of the things where he respected me, you ride around. But he took me to an auction. It was a Hudson and Marshall auction. And at that time, it was a bigger room than this, and they was auctioning off foreclosure houses. And I realized that all of the houses weren't getting bid on, like $2,000, $3,000, $4,000, $5,000 for whole houses that a room did not want. And I saw an opportunity. I'm from Florida. Rent was $1,500. I'd rather buy a house here and not have to pay rent and go back to Florida. So we went to that, we bought some training, and we went back to the auction and bought 2 properties. We really bought one of them because we thought it came with a car, but it was the neighbor's car, so that was kind of a bad thought. We did it in a bit.
Try to get stuff. Every time I buy a house, I try to get stuff with it.
Those are close.
Yeah. So tell us a little bit about your show, because we can talk creative financing all day,
Yes.
right? Obviously they can too, because they love it, right? But you guys dabble in creative financing too, but just a different way.
Yes.
Right? So tell us a little bit about the Denmark way. How do you get your ex-flipper, by the way? Because I think it goes along with our story.
So, ex-flipping really means F-flipping, and it comes from a failure. We had been buying rental properties for 5 or 6 years. We had accumulated probably about 10 to 15 rental properties at that time, and we decided we was gonna start flipping. The market's getting better, so we get into our first flip, and it's a great deal. We thought it was anyway. We're trying to use the same contract that we use on our rental properties. Big mistake, don't do that. And we finish the property over budget and go to market to sell, and we have 2 contracts that fall through for no fault of our own. And the 3rd contract actually closed, but we was doing it the wrong way, and we had all of our money in that one deal. So at that time, it was like, how do we do other deals with all of our money is tied into this one deal? So we eventually sold the house, but in the process of trying to figure out other things, we started lease options. We started entertaining that thought. So once lease option is kind of our baby, that's our strategy. Once we started lease optioning, things kind of changed for us.
All right, so tell us, what is a lease option?
A lease option is definitely not a lease purchase. So understand that a lot of people have those things in the same bucket. They are similar, but they're not the same. A lease option is a lease where you have two contracts. You have a lease and you have an option to buy the property. The lease is your regular lease. Hey, you're going to rent the property for this much. You're going to, just a regular lease that you move into. The option is the part where we're going to agree on a price to sell you the house at. We're going to agree on a date that you have to buy by. We are going to agree that if there's any type of seller assistance or anything you get, it's going to be in that contract. So you have two different leases, you have two different contracts. You have a lease and you have an option to buy. If you don't do the things in that lease, you lose the option to buy. And the beauty of it is, if they don't pay, you don't have to foreclose on them, you just have to evict them. And if you know anything about a foreclosure versus eviction, an eviction most times is cheaper and quicker.
That's awesome. Thank you. So they're not having to come down with a down payment, or do they come down with
So we charge what we call a non-refundable option fee. And the key is non-refundable. If you put down, if the purchase price is $100,000 and you put down $10,000 and your option is to buy in a year, your purchase price is still $100,000 in a year. If you pay $1,000 a month for 12 months straight, at the end of that lease, your purchase price is still $100,000. And it's key because you don't want to give them equitable interest in the house. Because if you give them equitable interest in the house, it can get kicked over to a different court. Now you might have to foreclose. So you have to be upfront with them. You have to be willing to help. I think that's the foundation of who we are and what we are. We are helpers. We believe in the dream of home ownership. There's a lot of false information out there that stop people from buying. And we believe that if we can help more people buy, we can help people change their lives. Because that equity from buying a house, you can use that to send your kids to school, business, whatever you can do with it. But that's the foundation that we believe can change people's lives.
So why would a tenant want to do the 75, or sorry, that's mine, the lease option?
So the reason that people want to do lease options is because we help them buy the property from a traditional bank. So if they need help with getting their credit line, we help them with that. If they need help kind of creating a budget to save, we help them with that. So we take them by the hand and we walk them through. A lot of times we did a lot of business owners who haven't filed taxes. We will help them orchestrate their taxes to where there's a fine line between showing money and being able to buy a house. So you gotta be able to walk that line and be able to help. So the people that we service are people that have challenges, people that have come out of foreclosures, people that have come out of bankruptcies, but they still want to own a home.
Yeah, absolutely. So that's like, when you guys spoke at our mastermind earlier in the year, man, that's when y'all were telling me that, like how much you guys hold the owners or the tenant's hand and help them get their credit back up. I'm like, man, that is crazy. I don't know if I can do that, to be honest with you. You're right, it's a servant's heart. Like, but you know, obviously we got to make money out of it.
Yes, we make money. Everybody doesn't buy the lease option, just total transparency. There is going to be life happens. So for us, it's a 50-50. If they buy, that's great. We've got some cash flow. We've helped them accomplish a goal. If they don't buy, we're just regular landlords at that point. They paid their rent on time. Most of the time, they have taken care of the house better than a regular tenant. So when we had those first rental properties, we realized that we were putting a lot of effort and money into the lower end properties, and the returns weren't there. And we weren't getting the best of tenants. We weren't able to do the best of rehabs because of the price that we was at. So we kind of took the combination of that flip and those low end rentals experience and put it together, and that's kind of how we got to experience.
That's awesome. Thank you. I'm all for that. I hate flips. I'm all for that.
I got a question. What's your like typical terms for that? Do you give them 12 months?
For us, our sweet spot is 6 months to a year. If it's going to take them longer than a year to buy, they're not our ideal client. We will give them a plan to go start working and execute, and once you do some of those things, come back. But for us, we see that 6 months, if it's more than a year, the success rates drops dramatically.
Right. And in that 12 months, if they're leasing, are you covering the hot water heater when it goes out and the broken window?
So how our program is set up, they take care of any repairs under $500. Because when we was doing our lower end run properties, I got an accounting degree, we realized that the repairs was sucking out a lot of the profit. So what we did was we said, hey, anything under $500, that's on you to take care of. You are becoming a homeowner. We are preparing you for home ownership. Once you buy this house, you can't call Wells Fargo and Regions and say, my window broke. You have to take care of those things. So we are preparing them for home ownership, and they're handling those things.
Good question.
Great question.
Anybody else? So what is your average cash flow look like per door on average?
It's the typical landlords, 300-ish, but for us, we look at that option fee as our cash flow.
Yeah.
So for most of our properties, we are dealing with properties with a ARV between 150 and 180, 200-ish. But how we look at it is if we can get an option fee of $5,000 to $10,000 up front, then that is the cash flow if that tenant stayed there for 3-4 years without the headache of managing repairs and getting all those calls and things of that nature, and worrying about them having to pay rent because they know that they're not paying their rent on time, they lose the option to buy property.
Yeah, you mentioned a non-refundable
Option fee.
option at the beginning. Can you
Yes, sir.
explain that once again?
So a non-refundable option fee is what they give us for the option to buy the house.
And what percentage is that normally, or is it a fixed?
We kind of have an internal system based on the after repair value of the house. So for us, it's going to be about $5,000 to $10,000. But depending on the property, we got one that was a $300,000 ARV. We just got $15,000 option. So kind of depending on the house dictates what that price would be. And we try to do it to where, what we'll tell them, because yes, we make money, but we're trying to help. So what we'll tell them, if you put down this money on the front end, we'll match it on the back end of closing costs.
So you deduct that from the phone?
Yes, and we'll deduct that from the cost and give it to them with some credit and things of that nature. So once you're in the house, all you have to focus on is getting your credit score, getting your credit in line or following the plan. You don't have to worry about trying to save more money or things of that nature. And a lot of times, the lender that we work with, they'll also give down payment assistance and those. So we kind of set it up to where as long as you pay this option fee and do what we say do, once it's time to buy, you don't really have to even come to the table anymore.
And so I guess the following question to that is, at the end of that 6 or 12 month lease, it sounds like you don't give them an option to renew. Is that correct?
Well, there is a option to renew building.
Okay.
So, but that's another $2,500 option fee that they have to pay.
Is that half of the original option fee typically?
Say that question again.
So would that be like half of the original option? fee?
Yes.
Or the whole?
Half, so this
Okay.
$5,000 option fee, non-refundable option fee up front, then to extend it for 3 or 6 months, $2,500. You put down $10,000 and $5,000. So that also keeps the pressure on them to follow the plan. Now, do we always hold them to that? No, I'm not gonna tell you that. Because we are looking at it from a long-term standpoint also. If they're paying their rent on time, we're still getting appreciation on the property, we're still getting principal pay down. So there are still benefits of a traditional landlord built into it. So we're not really in a rush to put them out. And a lot of times lease options get a bad stigma because a lot of people in the past was just trying to get those option fees back. We make our money when they buy.
That's the same creative finance.
What's your spread that you try to sell it to them for after a year? So if you're all in at like 100, what are you trying to sell it for to that tenant?
It, based on the cost. So kind of what we do internally is, and I'm gonna go a little deeper, if I confuse somebody, please tell me. So we get our ARV. We basically take the top 3 costs, divide it by 3. We're gonna do our numbers off of that as our ARV. But when we go to set the price, we look at the highest comp and add 5 to 10,000 to that. So we automatically build in profit from the beginning. And we don't have real estate agents also in that transaction. So that adds another 6 to 7% to our bottom line.
So let's kind of pull back a little bit, because I love the strategy. Let's talk about the business in general. When we come in here and talk, we talked about lead generation and acquisitions and the dispo strategy, right, which is your lease option. What does it look like for you guys as far as acquisitions? How are you guys getting properties?
I feel like we cheat. I mean,
Yeah.
I read a book, I don't know the author name, but the book is called Who Not How. And if you read that book, it kind of changes your mind on how to grow and how to scale your business. I'm like, why? I didn't like the phones, I didn't like the postcards, I didn't like being told no, because those things suck the energy out of me. Like, it just zapped me to go sit in front of a seller for 30 minutes for them to tell me, no, I don't want to sit there. I especially when I first started, I didn't have the muscle memory to keep accepting no's. So we kind of cheat. So we get properties 3 ways. We go to wholesalers. That's our bread and butter, is posting in Facebook groups. Just like they said, that's where the deals are. You post it in Facebook groups. We build a relationship with a lot of realtors that deal with other clients, and we get referrals. So we kind of believe that we don't mind paying a wholesaler to do what they do, because we can focus on doing what we do. And we can't do everything. So we believe in networking, relationships, and being able to help. And you'll be surprised that when you are positioning yourself as a person that wants to help, people will give that back to you. So I can attest, Robert does deals. We close deals with Robert. And it's because of the relationship. I know for a fact I'm not the highest offer all the time. But I'm gonna be honest with him. I'm gonna tell him if I can close. And he knows if I say I'm gonna close, I'm gonna close. And that's the reputation that I wanna have. That's the reputation that I have put out there, is we're not just gonna lock your property up and try to find somebody to buy it. We are buyers, we're gonna buy it, and the network, I'd rather sit here and talk to wholesalers all day versus talking to sellers.
At the end of the 12 months, when they have the option to buy, are you financing it for them, or are they?
No, we work with a local mortgage company. So before they move into our properties, we have our mortgage company to run them, to look at their credit, to see exactly if there's anything that we're missing. We screen them, but they actually get a hard pull with the mortgage company.
So you're helping them find the financing?
The financing, yeah. So we got 2 of them that we work with that understands what we do. They understand that, hey, you're not gonna make money right now on this deal, but we coming back to you when we get ready. So, and a lot of them are our students too, so they understand the process and the model. So yes, we are getting them traditional, most of the time FHA financing.
Yeah. Go ahead, Nick.
So I know with the wholesaling, you may be buying yourself, but for some of these, are you leveraging private money, or do you?
Yes, so the part that we started at the end, we're talking disposition, but we burr on the front end. So we have a combination of a lot of what we call gap funders, to where we will borrow the purchase and the rehab from a hard money lender, and we will get gap funds to cover the down payment. And then once we finish making the property pretty, we refinance, pay everybody off. So that, for us and the people that we was around, it was a lot easier to find people who had $20,000 versus $100,000 to be a all-in project.
How do you screen for these types of tenants? And I've got a brother-in-law at Fifth and East side down, and there's no way ever I would trust something like that.
So we have we use virtual assistants, just like with the Reba, just like Reba was talking. That whole part of our business is ran by virtual assistants. Our virtual assistants screen them. We have a built-in calculator that kind of breaks their credit down and says, hey, this person will be able to buy in 6 months, the person will be able to buy in a year, this person will be able to buy in 18 months. So once the VAs kind of do all that part, then we kind of pick the best client for that house.
So you've got some criteria for financials that they come to you with?
Yeah, so and it's all self-provided. So like, it's not a hard pull on their credit, they're pulling their own credit and sending it to us. They can kind of give us their stated income. Now, once we get down to the lease signing part, hey, let's check all their documents and make sure everything is in line. But for us, this is kind of where we started, so we kind of created a whole model with it.
How do you find, or how do you advertise to get your tenant buyers?
Facebook Marketplace is a great place. Zillow, even though they started to make you pay a little bit, Zillow is a good place, apartments.com, just the typical sites that people go to look for rentals. But in our postings, we have exactly what we're doing and who we are.
That's what I love about real estate, man. There's so many different.
Oh, there's so
ways.
many different ways.
You don't want to be a wholesaler, you don't have to be a wholesaler.
You do not, and we get deals all the time. So what I always tell my people is, create you an email only for the properties, and you put that email out to every property you see. Even if you don't want the property, you put that property out on every post, and you'll be surprised that when you wake up in the morning and look in that email, you have 10, 15 properties from different wholesalers that's trying to sell the property to you. And make an offer. No matter what the number is they're asking for, make an offer. Because a lot of our deals come from follow-up. Even though we make an offer, most of the time they're not going to accept, we're going to come back and follow up in a week. Hey, did that deal close? Hey, is everything going good? Because we're top of mind. And with wholesalers, you got that contract date that Dave was talking about, a lot of them have 30 days. So if they had a buyer in place and they 7, 10 days left on that contract, they coming back to the people who've been asking about the property to close. And a lot of times people get it at your number versus their number.
Yeah, I've done a 30-day free versus paid leads challenge on Facebook. That was the first thing I said to do was create an email, and mine was leads for reads, and I started this 60 days ago because that was about last month, and or 30 days ago. And you would be surprised how many leads I get a day just on the last 30 days. Like, I was going through and redoing it. Like, if I was broke and I had to start again, that was exactly the way that I was going to do it.
I must have missed this. I had to get up the very first when you, I apologize, but where do you operate at? Is that
And Birmingham.
Birmingham.
We're in Birmingham, Alabama.
I heard that's a terrible one.
Terrible, don't go down. Stay away, man. It's raggedy properties. Crying high. Yes,
When you said for that 6 month or year period that you're helping them then qualify for a mortgage, so, and then they were paying down on the purchase price? Is that
No,
correct or not? No.
they're not paying out on first price,
So then, when they have, then, let's say, they do everything on the lease, when they have the option to buy it, then they're still responsible for like the 3% down if they're gonna do like an FHA loan. that type of
Yeah, so kinda, that's a contract paperwork type thing, but in our option, we tell them we will give them up to X amount in closing.
Oh, okay.
And it kind of reflects what they put down as an option. So we're not telling them, we're gonna give you that option fee back. We're telling them that if you buy the property, we'll give it back to you in the closing costs. And if we don't need to, we won't, because a lot of times we try and get lenders that have down payment assistance. So if they have down payment assistance, then we can kind of play with the numbers to make it the way it works.
Any other questions?
So your calculator, did you come up with the numbers and everything yourself, or
Yes, keeping it simple.
what worked for you, right?
What works for us, and it was a lot of times we think that we are the best things in the world since sliced bread, but if you put that stuff down on paper, people can execute. And that was the simplest form, because at first, when we started, it was just me and my wife. And we was getting too many calls to even maneuver, because you gotta think, we got a rental listed. I mean, if you ever had a rental property and you listed it, you know how many calls you get from a rental listing. So when it was time to bring people in, it was, okay, how can we streamline this? How can we make it simple? And it wasn't easy, but just over time, we know the triggers. We know that if there's a certain amount in collections, that's gonna hurt them. We know that if their front end DTI is a problem, that's gonna hurt them. We know that if they don't make enough money, that's gonna hurt. So all those little things go into the calculator, and it usually spits back out a pretty accurate number.
You wanna be fair with people, but yet you wanna protect yourself too.
Oh, you gotta protect yourself, because we don't make money until they buy, for the most part. Because when we burn housing property, most of the time we're borrowing money. So our investors make a lot of the front end investment. We make money when they buy. That, they put an option fee of $5,000, $10,000. That's not why we do it. We want to make 50 or 60 on the back end.
Right.
Because we created equity, we created profit centers in the back end. So if they feel like we're in it together, then we're gonna push them to the finish line. And the other thing is, back to my accounting degree, we don't pay short-term capital gains. So a lot of times when you're flipping properties, you don't calculate for that short-term capital gains that you got to pay on the sale. Most of our profits are, we like 6 months to a year, because if we hold that property a year, that's an automatic profit center built in also, because we're not paying as much in taxes. It's not how much you make, it's how much you keep.
That's a related question to the tax. I mean, what I gather on rentals, you've got the depreciation on the house and also passive income. But for the wholesale side, where does that income fall? Is that considered passive, active, buyers, purchases, or?
I'm sorry, I was listening to her. He's got his own camera over here. I'm sorry.
Yeah, just the different types of income. For rentals, as I understand it, it's considered passive income by the IRS. But for the wholesale side of it,
Yeah.
is that taxed at the same tax rate, or is it more where you're taxed as normal income?
Not a tax professional, but I was more than likely to consider ordinary income.
Yeah.
Ordinary, maybe the tax, at your tax rate.
And I would say also talk to your CPA about
Yes.
it. Like, obviously, we're not giving legal advice here. Did everybody sign a waiver? But yeah, it's different with different people. I know you heard John say that we've got a buddy. He's doing something similar, a little different than both of us, but his account's counted as rental income, right? So it really just depends on that accountant and what they can get away with, or what they deem fit to call it, right?
Yes.
Yeah, I do. So Scott take videos of him going to the PO box, pulling out like a stack of checks. But yeah, I mean that's a great question. Anybody else? Nobody else. All right. So we obviously we have mentors. Obviously we are mentors.
Yeah.
Outside of that, what is some advice that you would give these guys that are just getting, I mean, most of these guys are just getting started.
I'm a side that broke the record, but I had a guy in the wine say it, I heard David said, you gotta get around like-minded people. That's the secret, that's the sauce. Get around like-minded people, because if you're around Cousin Bob or Uncle Shay Shay, and they have never bought a property before, and they're gonna talk you out of doing it. But if you're around the right people, they're gonna encourage you to do it. And the biggest thing is what's in between your ears. What are you listening to? Get around the right people so they can motivate you to do something different.
Yeah. When I started talking to people about the profits that I was making, like, I love hearing like $50,000, $60,000. That's awesome. We're talking about making 45 on flip. We're talking about all this profit that we're making. And I started realizing the people that I was around thought that I was bragging about it.
Mm-hmm.
And they were like, my friends, my closest friends were like hating on me because of that. And it's like, these people in these groups, these people that you need to be hanging around with, they're gonna be like, hey, that's awesome, $50,000 is awesome, man. Let's make $100,000 next time.
That's it. I mean, no joke, like, had a conference, called our coach, hey man, we made $50,000, man, that's great, man. Now how we can make it 100?
Oh my gosh.
I mean, it's like,
that dude is.
I just told you I made this amount of money. You talking about making more money? I don't damn know. I'm just happy I made that money. So understand, it's the people you're around, and they challenge you, and they push you to dig deeper. And sometimes you don't see it in yourself, but they see it in you.
Yeah.
So you gotta make sure you're around those people, and only those people. Like, I don't have a circle for, like, my circle is my students. And I understand that it's my job to pour into them, it's my job to motivate them. Talking to these are my friends, like, people that I grew up with, they don't understand me, and I grew up with them. They do not understand what I'm doing, they don't understand this journey I'm on. Now they see it, but they don't understand it.
That's it. So, that's all I got. Does anybody got any questions? Y'all ask a lot of questions. That was good. That's the most questions I've heard.
No problem.
Well, hey, I thank you for being here,
Thank
bro.
you.